Hey, good morning everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for Wednesday, June 14th, 2017. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. Currently in an uptrending market right now. We talked about before that 17 to 19 was an area for bulls, swing bulls to defend. Price got down into 1675 and is now retesting prices near the all-time highs. So this thing has been quite resilient, quite buoyant. You see that we have a stacked and sloped environment still going on with the pivot based EMAs, so everything is still flowing to the upside. What we do have on the docket today is the FOMC statement and the Fed interest rate decision. That's 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. All eyes will be on that later on this afternoon, and it's going to give us another key level, very similar to this May 3rd key level, very similar to this March 15th key level. We'll have another one for 614, and that's going to be a very important price-based key level, market-generated key level for the next week, 2 weeks, and even farther out. So that's going to be something to watch out for. As of right now, the flow is still to the upside until key support is taken out. Nothing much to say on the intraday chart right now, but we'll keep an eye on the edges of the range short term as this thing continues to digest ahead of that FOMC statement. Now, if we take a look at the NQ right now, the NQ has had a significant pullback, 2-day pullback, and since then we've seen a bounce back up. Very reminiscent of what we saw in mid-May, almost perfectly a month ago. We saw a big 2-day pullback, and then since it has driven higher to new highs. This impulse move right here, after the breakout, reached both the 50% and 100% expansion targets. 5904 was our target. That's the one we gave out back when this was created, basically. And that's the target we reached. We hit it one day, and then we saw the significant sell-off after that. Since then, prices bounced off the midpoint of the previous key range and is now in the midst of creating another key range to watch. So again, very, very bullish market, stacked and sloped environment. All pullbacks have been buying opportunities. This may be the next impulse move, which means we could sit here and develop a range and trade sideways ahead of the next move. Or we could see another one of these events play out. So the midpoint's going to tell us a lot. 5,800 is going to be very, very important. The previous month's close, very important. Should price get into this zone, 5,800 to 5,815, this is going to be an area that bears, after rejecting these recent highs and trapping bulls, bears are going to want to come in and look to defend 5,800 to 5,815 for a shot at pushing this thing back to 5,550. Now that's a long shot here. The overall trend has been up, but look for bears to come in and attempt to reject here. Any failure to hold prices below 5,815 suggests another big time push to new highs beyond 5,904. All right, let's take a look at crude oil here. Now, crude oil has been building out within a very narrow range. We've had a couple of ideas for crude. First, the thing has been trending downward. We talked before that any failure to hold above 46.30 could lead to another round of weakness to recent lows. And that rejection has occurred 2 days in a row, but we haven't seen a push to new lows. Instead, we've seen a very tightly coiled 5-day range develop. Down here on the developing 5-day ADR, you can see it's below 65% of ADR. So this is very tightly coiled, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Obviously, this day is not fully formed yet. But as it currently stands, it's a very narrow range compared to average, and that would be indicative of expansion to come. This 46.69 is a significantly clear pivot. You can see how bulls had it as support. Price went offered through it, and now it's becoming resistance. So this is a very clear pivot. To push beyond it would suggest a major stop run day, very similar to this day, that would push prices all the way back toward 48.42. Again, to fail to get above it would suggest a move downward. So right now we're in a very tightly coiled range, and again, we have crude oil inventories later on this morning in about 2 hours and 22 minutes, so we could be looking at significant expansion upon that report triggering some type of move. That's very similar to what happened last week. So could be significant. Again, watch 69, so 46.69. On the opposite side, 45.20 would be very important. this is the range to watch. Again, failed range expansion would be significant as well. Lastly, gold here. On a swing basis, you can see bears have been defending the previous month's close here. But after seeing new lows the previous session, we've jumped back up, and now bears are having to redefend. So it's clear who's positioned where. Bears are positioned off the previous close. Where are the stops? The stops, the buy stops are above that level. Are they getting paid? Not really, not right now. So you have to be very careful here if you're a bear and have been defending this level, because the buy stops could come out and run this thing higher. It's very difficult to initiate a trade in this zone right now. The expectation earlier was up here was the fade point back down. That occurred very quickly, much faster than I anticipated. The fade was very, very quick, and price got basically within a half point of our target zone. It got as low as 1260.5. We were looking for 59 to 60. So for all intents and purposes, that quick fade that I mentioned at the beginning of the month has already played out. So at the beginning of the month, I talked about, hey, if this thing rolls into this level, that could be a quick fade back to 60. We've seen that move play out. Now that that move has played out and price has gotten back toward composite VPOC, there could be some chop in this area, very similar to this over here, before we see the next move. So I'd be very cautious, but I do know one thing. Above the previous close, there's some buy stops above that area that could lead to a retest of 1290s and perhaps above, so keep an eye on that. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this thing plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck and trade well.